Good afternoon, everyone. We're glad to welcome you on our webinar dedicated to the cybersecurity. As we all know, recently numerous cyber attacks have been carried out on a private and government institution across numerous European countries and Ukraine in particular. During our webinar, you will learn how to prevent cyber attacks on your business. Our experts will share Infopulse cases and introduce you the best security practices. And before we start, I would like to share some organizational points. My name is Olena Babak and I will be the host of our today's event. Our webinar will last 1.5 hours and our speakers are the specialists of the Infopulse company, Dmytro Sirosh, Konstantin Lasinsky and Yevgen Volkunchik. Please note that all participants are in the mute mode. We welcome you to ask questions. Please use our chat. Well, actually, we're even asking you to ask questions. Our speakers will be happy to answer the questions during the Q&A session at the end of our webinar. This webinar is being recorded and we will definitely share the recording and presentation materials most likely during this week. If you have any additional questions already after the event, please feel free to write us and we will definitely redirect questions to our speakers and of course you will get the answers. Now I would like to tell you briefly about our company. Infopulse is a part of the leading Nordic digital services company Tietoevry, and it is an international vendor of IT services to SMEs and Fortune 100 companies across the globe. Founded in 1991, the company has a team of over 2,500 professionals, and it is represented in 7 countries across the globe. Infopulse was recognized as a Microsoft Azure Expert Managed Service Provider MSP in 2021. MSP recognition marks an essential milestone in Infopulse's 17 years collaboration with Microsoft. Infopulse is a global outsourcing 100 company recognized by IOP and was named as the finalist of the European Software Testing Award 2020 and 2021. In 2019, Infopulse became the Microsoft Country Partner of the Year for Ukraine. So that's all from my side. Thank you very much for your attention. Hope you know more about who we are and what we do. And right now, I would like to give a word to our first speaker, Evgeny, please.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Yevgen Volkunchik. Thanks for giving words. So what we will do right now is we would make some retrospective overview on what was happening and what the lessons been learned through our experiences as Ukraine. As starting of the 2014, our government and private industries were attacked by different groups, which were sponsored by different companies and different institutions since the invasion of the Russian to Ukraine, which happened in 2014. However, the full-scale Russian invasions these days is somehow blur. What's happening was recently. However, what we want to do here is to see recent history of what was happening since 2014, understand what are the lessons that can be learned and how we can look and understand what was happening and how we can prepare for further attacks which look similar and which happening right now. So starting from the 2014, as I said, Russian been hacking Ukrainian central election system. There was some attacks previous to that in the worldwide, but it was like kind of minor one, something happening in Netherlands, in Norway. However, this one was first full-scale kind of attack, which was done by the group of the hackers, which called Cyberwar, and they declared to destroy the whole infrastructure which laid beneath the election system. And as Ukrainian government declared, they removed the virus only in 40 minutes before the fact of the election started, like computing of those. And the most interesting part of that idea behind that was to show the totally different results of the election. So there is like ultranation party in Ukraine, which is kind of not that huge. However, the idea behind was to show that those one, which leader is, I suppose, Dmitry Yarosh, is captured 37%, which is like it's unbelievable number for that. However, the Russia is always trying to show Ukraine is kind of ruled by neo-Nazis guys. So in fact, some of evidence to that, while it was prevented, the fact that there was shown on the Russian national TV, the numbers that they showed while describing what the elections that had been happening in Ukraine, was initially those 37%, which go to the neo-Nazis, something that was looking for this cyberwar to do to house the system this way. However, it was prevented. But yeah, so this is the one of the first examples. So moving to the 2015 and to the next slide, there was totally other kind of attack, which is like done by other like famous name, which we would see further more like Sandworm, and it was done to attack the power grid, and this once again was part of the whole series of attacks on the Ukraine media and power grids and other critical infrastructure. However, what was done is real blackout. So there was like for the region of Ukraine, what the Sandworm achieved is total blackout, no light for the region for few hours. And what they did also, they managed to turn off the power supply to the call center to create additional amount of the house, and created like multiple phone calls just to create the terrorize effect. Moving further to the 2016, same group was trying to hack the in the time of creating the national budget for the Ukraine. They've been successful in reaching the budget and the budgeting system and make it fail. Then there was like other multiple attempts to fall down the power grid system and create the blackout. While this was done mostly through the overload of the power lines. I mean, in terms of the DOS part, and the another one is the blackout in the Kiev region, and that was also which quite successful. It took 1 hour to get it back to the life inside the capital of the country, and yeah, so this is quite significant. And moving to the 2017, so I guess there is a screen that many of you had the opportunity to see, hopefully not on your PC, but in the internet. So this another crucial attack by Sandworm group, which was malware called NotPetya. And the idea was is just to run ransom message that hackers are looking for money. However, it wasn't about that. It wasn't about payment. So anybody who paid doesn't had an opportunity to recover the system. So multiple government agency, hospital, banks, other crucial infrastructure was damaged that way. However, this is one of the lessons that can be learned of them with this one of the most complicated and scalable attacks that happened is this not beta, which was like initially attempted to harm the Ukrainian infrastructure, commercial and government one. It went through the borders. So malware doesn't know the government borders or company borders. So as a result of the distribution of this malware, some companies like FedEx, American Mondelez were attacked. So what does it mean for FedEx, which is like initially the companies that make delivery all around the world, so on the ships. So all delivery were stopped, which costs like hundreds of millions in losses. Mondelez, one of the biggest producers of chocolate in the world, haven't had an opportunity to supply the chocolate, and saying like the other company got a problem, for example, in the medicine, which can produce the medication for that. So yeah, so one of the main thing here is, once again, that I want to repeat. So it doesn't matter, are you inside that infrastructure that's looking to be attacked. It's also something that your infrastructure can be harmed, like as a side effect, just because you are somewhere in the same network, having the same software, or sharing something with the company which is initial target of the hackers. Yeah. So then, yeah. So the next slide. And I guess with here, I'm passing the word to Konstantin.
Thank you, Evgeny, for the introduction about cyber attacks on Ukraine. And I will continue with 2022. I think if we will squeeze all the attacks that happened to our country to 1 month, it will be the start of 2022. So we faced, before the war, even before the war, we faced with massive DDoS attacks on all our governmental sites, on all of our media sites. A lot of companies also faced with cyber attacks. And it was the public impact. Also, a lot of media, Twitter and Facebook were filled with information that Ukrainian sites and companies are down at the moment, and so on, so on. But in the background, the real cyber war was happening. Pro-Russian cyber groups were targeting Ukrainian governments and companies and organizations with malware attacks, with sophisticated attacks to compromise their infrastructure, to get into the infrastructure, to steal information, to bring down all infrastructure, erase information, and gain some political power doing that. Then the invasion happened, and at that moment, most of Ukrainian systems were hardened, and cyber war moved to another phase. And the second phase, I would say, happened when European countries started helping Ukraine with non-military and military help. And then those attacks were spreading to Europe also. And they were spreading not only to government, but for civilian companies, banks also, airports, railway station sites, and so on and so on. And a lot of services that people use every day were touched. Someone couldn't buy tickets, someone couldn't fill his car with gas, and it made a lot of troubles for people. Then cyber war moved to, let's say, third phase, when bigger organizations were targeted by cyber criminals. Among them is NATO, IT services, United Nations sites, American weapon production companies such as Lockheed Martin and so on. But at the same time, DDoS attacks become like a background noise, and the real cyber war become more on with malware tools, with advanced penetration tools, even with insider attacks. And the point of those attacks were to steal information, then transfer this information to intelligence, and of course to publicly disclose some information, and sometimes even add some disinformation to disclosing information, like 80% are real disclosed information and 20% is disinformation. These are the tactics of that war. And next, I think we should talk about why those attacks were successful and what types of attacks mainly we seen during these stages. And there were, first of all, of course, DDoS attacks. They are most visible, and they produce the most and the biggest noise in social media. When something not working, everyone talks about it. The second most popular attack were injection attacks targeted to web applications and other types of web application attacks. But injection was number one, so we'll talk about them more deeply. The third attacks were identity-based attacks. They are more rare, but I would say that they were among one of the most impactful attacks. And the fourth one is email-based attacks. Attackers most of the time gained access to internal infrastructure through email-based attacks, as always. So let's start from DDoS attacks and how to protect from them. We all know what are the DDoS attacks. In a few words, attackers take nodes, sometimes very powerful nodes, sometimes very weak nodes like home routers and so on, give them a command to try to access to some resource or send the packets to this resource, requests, any types of data. And the target resource suffers from thousands of requests per second that are specially crafted to suck all the resources from the target service. As a result, legitimate users can't access to target service, and everyone sadly goes to another service if they can, or just wait until it will get up. So how this attack might look like? I will show you a small demo about how is it easy to conduct DDoS attack to any resource. Let's look at this specially crafted site. It's a web application with simple nodes. I put some information here. I even can create another node, so it's dynamic, but the ordering in a wrong way. Sorry for that. So this is a typical and very simple and very fast application. It can respond in some sort of 100,000 requests per second. And now let's try to DDoS this resource. We can use specially crafted scripts, or we can use available on GitHub. I will use scripts from GitHub just to show that they are very easy accessible and very destructive. So let's start our attack. So the attack is started, and I think our resource, oh, it's still working. Oh, sorry. Oh, it's already down. So it took about 1 second to bring down very fast resource and on very fast server, I would say. It's a very common situation, and attackers can bring down hundreds of sites per day, and counting how many of attackers in those attacker groups, sometimes they count up to about 50,000 people. You can even imagine how many sites and what amount of traffic they can produce. So I will show you the easiest way how to prevent those attacks. Let's wait a few moments while my site gets. Oh, it's already up right now. What should we do? We have to put our site behind cloud protection service. That's very easy. And key points I will tell you about a little bit later. So we putting our site behind the cloud protection services, which will receive all the traffic from users, from attackers, from everyone that is going to target site, and it will filter out the bad information or the junk requests. So only legitimate request will pass to our target infrastructure, and all the attack information, all the junk traffic will be blocked. That's very easy. And I already put a second DNS name of the same site. It's the same site. It's behind cloud protection service right now. Here we can see our just created node, and we will try to attack the protected site. Here we use the same DNS name, and we will try to attack this second DNS name of our site. Sorry. And it's available without any delays. Everything is fine. It's a very simple demonstration. How can you protect your site from typical DDoS attacks, from most common DDoS attacks? It's very simple, very simple solution, but it's very representative. What is the starting point to protect your infrastructure? Next, I will tell you about some of insights that should be considered, and they are more valuable even than the solution itself. First of all, the attackers will try to breach your infrastructure with the weakest point of your infrastructure. They will, first of all, try to scan all of your available assets, all of available servers, entering and exiting points, and they will try to break everything through the weakest point. One of most common problems that I see among a lot of attacks is attacking name servers. Because I saw a lot of organizations that were protecting their sites with very complicated DDoS protection solutions, and they were almost unbreachable. Any simulations couldn't break them, but attackers targeted their name servers, and they were not protected at all. so someone missed them. And when DNS server fall down, no DNS could be resolved for that organization, and users couldn't reach services that they were trying to reach. So it was the weakest part. And the first insight is, don't forget about weakest parts, and you should know about your weakest points in infrastructure and plan how to protect it. The second insight, attackers will always know your past information about your infrastructure in the past, let's say. So if you had one IP address for your site, then you moved to the cloud protection, attackers will certainly figure out your previous IP address, and they will try to reach that IP address because almost in all cases that IP address will be reachable. In fewer cases, those IP addresses are filtered out, so only cloud solution can reach them, but still those IP addresses are reachable to internet. And if attackers will generate very significant amount of traffic, the traffic will reach border routers of client and exhaust his channels. So attack won't reach the target site or target IP, but it will reach the channel of client and bring him down. Third insight is that 1,000 bots are always stronger than one server, because if you take more powerful server, attackers will certainly take more powerful bots, or just add 1 0 to the count of the bots. So one server won't stand against a big attack. It will, or CPU will be exhausted, or RAM will be exhausted, or disk performance, or channel. One of these four, and your service is unavailable. First insight is about industry. I often hear an idea that if a company doesn't sell goods or services, or they don't take part in political life of a country, attackers won't hit them. But this is wrong, because in this cyber war, attackers want to break as much resources as possible, then make a screenshot of this activity of unavailable resource, and even check it through global checkers, and then publish it and show that they bring down some of the resources. Of course, they're happy when they break large companies, but they also happy when they break 100 of small companies. And the fifth insight, that the DDoS protection solution out of the box can protect you from the majority of attacks, but they won't protect a company from targeted attack that is specially crafted for the organization. Because in targeted attacks, attackers will try to investigate as much information as possible and then hit to the weakest point of the service, like creating hundreds of search requests while your service handles hundred thousands of requests. Will significantly slow down the backend SQL server or Elastic or any other engine. So you should tune the solution. And of course, recommendations regarding those insights. First of all is know your infrastructure. You always have to know what assets are available to the internet, what sites are there, what open ports do you have, because attackers will certainly figure out everything about the infrastructure that they are targeting. The second recommendation is to use specialized services to protect, because if you have thousands of servers, and you have a lot of external communication channels. Some of attacks can be so big that even country can't handle them. Like last Google attack, GCP platform faced with, I think, biggest attack in the history, and they had tens of millions of requests per second targeting HTTPS. So it's very rare type of attacks because they are also very expensive to organize, but they are also very expensive to protect from them. And of course, specialized services that are focused on preventing DDoS attacks will handle much more attacks than your own infrastructure will. The third recommendation is offload public-facing resources to the cloud. This is not always a very significant recommendation and not always possible to realize this, but in some cases, attackers can conduct activities that are not always an attack. It can be a significant interest to a resource, like if they publish on their forum some information with a link to large PDF or video file. A lot of users can reach to the site. It's not an attack in typical terms, but it will produce much bigger load to your service. And with the on-premises infrastructure, you can't scale your service very quick, but the cloud can. So cloud will handle big spikes. The fourth recommendation is you shouldn't hide, but you should be prepared. I also saw a lot of infrastructures that were trying to hide their valuable resources with unnamed IP addresses without reverse PTR records and on higher ports. But it also can be identified with the attackers. But if those clients were preparing, not hiding, they could face much larger attacks, and their service will be online all the time. And the fifth recommendation is about reviewing logs of your protection solutions, of reviewing logs, especially after attacks, to understand how attackers trying to breach your infrastructure, trying to bring it down, to fine-tune your solutions. Because fine-tuning is always a winning strategy. Okay, moving on to the solutions. Our team has faced with a lot of different attacks to different infrastructures, and we have a good experience with these 4 solutions. And as experts, we can recommend you using and protecting your infrastructure with these solutions. It's Azure DDoS protection, it's Imperva DDoS protection, Cloudflare, and AWS Shield. We saw them under heavy attacks, and we can recommend you using them. Moving on, and the second most common is web injection. What is web injection attacks? It's the attacks when hackers trying to inject some malicious information to typical traffic. Let's imagine a service that hosts web pages that are available to users through ID. So attacker can try to inject to this ID some malicious information to reach the backend servers. So they are conducting almost legitimate requests. It is not DDoS. It won't try to bring down the resources, but It is a specially crafted requests that are targeted to try to execute malicious code on the backend servers. That is the main target of these activities. And what are the results of these activities? What is the impact? The typical impact is erasing the information, stealing the information, unauthorized modification, and even gaining access to backend servers. And sometimes I can see that even pieces of malware are transferred to SQL Server and then constructed from the small pieces, executed, and the attack goes on. Let's see again a small example on how we can exploit our service. So we are looking to the same service, to the same simple web application, which has add node functionality. As you can see, it works fine and everything is published, but let's try to exploit this somehow. Let's try to erase information, for example. So knowing how SQL works, conducting some research, we understand that database has a table called nodes. And we inject this code to our request. As you can see, this form transfers information through POST request to our server, to our backend, and information in this field will be recorded to our database. But we preventing SQL Server to understand where are the boundaries of this information. And we are closing our initial transaction where we try to put something to the database and injecting the delete SQL statement. And it will erase all of our records in SQL Server. It's just a simple example. Real world scenarios are more complicated, but it demonstrates how SQL injection can be exploited on a lot of services. As you can see, our database is empty now. So we are starting to add new posts, but the old posts are gone forever, except for if we have a backup. The same way we can modify other posts. We can create thousands of posts. A lot of tasks can be done this way. But today we're talking not about how to exploit the web server. It's another webinar stem. Today we are talking about how to protect from these types of attacks. Here we are switching to the same service, but it is passed through cloud DDoS protection and WAF. And we will try to understand how to protect from SQL injection attacks and other web injection, other web targeted attacks. As previously, we are using cloud service, which is cloud WAF, and all traffic targeting our site will pass through cloud WAF service. Why cloud? Because it has almost unlimited scalability. It always up to date, and it is trained with big data. So if there is a new attack to some sort of CMS or web framework appears, cloud services will significantly earlier implement protection from those types of attacks. So now we are passing all of our traffic through Cloud WAF, and our attacker will try to execute the same attack, but only through Cloud WAF. Let's see what's happening. Again, create nodes. I'll make it a little bigger. So we are closing our SQL and trying to delete everything again. But now it is blocked by our cloud protection service, and attackers can't exploit the same attacks as they could previously. Returning to our slides. And what are the recommendations to effectively protect against such sorts of attacks? First of all, never trust the data that is provided by users. Typically, developers think that if they are created a front end and all the data is validated on applications on client side, then this information is legitimate, and don't additionally check it on a server side. But this is the first step for a good vulnerability. So all information that coming outside of the server, especially if it is from a user, always have to be validated, cleared, and it will almost always prevent a lot of attacks. The second recommendation, WAF will protect you against majority of web attacks, but you should make your application as secure as possible, because one day WAF can become unavailable, or it can switch to maintenance mode, or some rule can be deprecated, and so on and so on. A lot of events can happen, and your application can become available to attackers directly, and they of course will try to exploit everything they have, and WAF won't help here. The third recommendation is about business logic. So WAF won't protect you out of the box, of course, about business logic attacks. So you have to teach your WAF how to protect them. We will talk about this a little later also. The fourth recommendation is that your WAF solution have to be tuned to know how your application works. If you know weak points of your application, like unprotected search requests and so on, you have to create custom rules for WAF just to mitigate exploitation of those attacks. And the final recommendation is about threat hunting on logs that are collected from WAF. It can give you a lot of valuable information on how your application works, what data transferred to and from your application. And even if developers made some modifications and didn't notify a security team, you will see it from the logs. And of course, dashboards can be built just to monitor what's happening behind the scenes. Even if an application works fine, something can happen in the background. Attackers can steal information through the web. Attackers can send command and control traffic, and so on and so on. So reviewing this information will give you insights, and sometimes will allow you to identify very sophisticated hidden attacks. Okay, moving on. Again, what are the vendors that we used and can recommend? It's again Azure WAF, it's AWS WAF, it's Imperva WAF, and Cloudflare WAF. All of these solutions showed their usability in sophisticated large attacks, also in high volume attacks. They can be fine-tuned, they are well supported, and of course, they are very scalable, so they can handle large attacks. Because sometimes injection attacks or web targeting attacks are going in conjunction with DDoS attacks. So WAF have to handle a lot of traffic during these moments. Moving on to third vector, and Dmitry, giving a word to you.
Thank you, Kostya. So yeah, let's talk about such vector as email attacks. Actually, email is one of most spreaded and one of most trusted collaboration tools that employees and people use currently. Why it's so trusted? It's trusted because we use it every day. We use it for lots of reasons, for business communications, from private communications. It's very common for us to get some attachments, to get some links with email from colleagues of us, follow such attachments or follow links or interact with attachments. So for us, it's very common. It's very usual such patterns, and that's why usually people pay less attention on security of these communications. And that's the reason why adversaries tries to use this vector in order to breach corporate perimeter or breach user accounts with this vector. Actually, why it's so easy to do? Because attachments or links within email, they could contain some malware, or they might lead to phishing sites or to some compromised sites. So there is need for user to make the only action like follow the link or open attachment in order magic can start. Yeah. So on this scenario, you can see that attacker might send some compromised email, some malformed email to end user, and user might using some URL from email. If it looks like a normal corporate email, or it looks like trusted email from some friend or partner. So following the link from this email, user easily can be redirected to a website with malware, or malware could be directly downloaded through this link, or user just might visit some pre-configured site which might collect some user account data like passwords, secrets, user accounts, etc. And having such attack succeed might allow attacker to collect very sensitive information about user, which can be used afterwards for another types of attacks or to gain some sensitive data, sensitive access. If we go to next slide, we can review some typical scenario for such attack or some example of such scenario. Adversary gets access to sell email, sell inbox through user account compromise or through credential theft. So there are plenty ways how to do that. And usually, for the first time, adversaries do nothing with such access. So they just look around what's happening. They are watching which emails are sent regularly. How do the corporate emails look like? Maybe they try to collect some sensitive information from sale inbox. However, for the first time after such inbox breach, nothing suspicious happens. However, after discovery phase is ended, then a specific malformed email could be created by adversary, and usually target of such email might be like CFO or accountants department or purchase department. And what if email will contain some order to purchase specific goods or specific services from partner? If company is not too mature, if company doesn't have very strict and very evolved purchase procedures, that might lead that corporate money will be transferred to adversary account, and company will not receive any goods, any services instead. However, this is just result of breach such account as sale accounts. For sure, if company has some validation procedures within their purchase process, or if they should pass multiple stages before money to be transferred, it might not happen. However, companies might work in various ways, and that's why that might be the case. That's actually the real case. However, on next slide, we can see how can we avoid situations like that, like just described. First of all, it's verification. So each company should verify sender or verify their emails as a trusted owner or trusted recipient of emails. There are plenty of techniques that allow to verify if sender is the real person who seems to be. So there are some specific configurations in DNS that allow doing that for third parties, etc. So please do not avoid having such configurations done within your network. So this will secure your emails and even hold your domain against usage by adversaries. Second important point is to verify each attachment that comes with email. There are lots of solutions that allow to validate each attachment, to scan it with antivirus solution, to apply some heuristic techniques to detect malware or to detect some suspicious scripts or things like that. So it is very important to pay attention on each email. Do not allow to transfer some executable files in raw format. So it could be executed from inbox, like executables, like scripts, etc. Another important aspect is to verify links. Such solutions as web gateways, they might allow not to allow they might control if access to suspicious URLs are happening and prevent them. However, control of links of URLs from your email on the very beginning stage when email just comes to your inbox or to your user's inbox, that's much more efficient because it might allow you to detect some spread of malware inside your organization. Users use links not only on corporate devices, not only within corporate networks. They might take laptop at home, try to open a link from there, and there is no guarantee that in such situation your web gateway, corporate web gateway, take care on such. That's why having such validation on email level is important also. And another important thing is run executables from your emails in sandbox. If email is not recognized as suspicious by your email antivirus solution or by your email protection solution, nevertheless, it can contain some custom malware, custom scripts, and things that might allow to install some backdoor. That's why running such executables in sandbox allows not to compromise your systems, your environment, and only specific systems could handle such threats like threats with malformed with malware, which was customized specific for your organization. On the next slide, we can review capabilities of Office 365 against all such attacks. Actually, introverts Office can perform each type of validation like just discussed. It can control if email sender is trusted and is really who sent you email. It can control your attachments and links with specific policies, with specific settings, and it's highly recommended to use all such tools within your organization if you use Office 365 as your email, as your collaboration tool. Actually, there are much more security features with Microsoft Defender for Office 365. They can provide lots of important security checks, and they can significantly reduce level of reduce level of risk for your company. And even more, they are quite efficient or much more efficient in case multiple solutions are used together, like Defender for Office 365 and Defender for Identity, for example, or Defender for Endpoints. These allow to build multi-layer security security for your organization, for your company, where each subject of your environment will be protected, like emails, like users, like endpoints, and servers, and rest. On another slide, we will talk about yet another vector of attacks, possible attacks. It's identity attacks. So why identity is such important, and why we talk about identity as a separate vector of attack. Before nowadays, as soon as cloud computing became so spreaded, lots of companies use some cloud services, or they might have their infrastructure in cloud, or companies might have hybrid infrastructure. That means that in such situation, company security perimeter is not consist of their network perimeter that is usually protected with firewalls. However, their security level much more depends on user accounts. Compromise of such accounts might lead to very significant results. Nowadays, attackers are trying and are attempting to get as much user accounts, as much credentials as they can, because of reason just discussion, and they use different techniques for them. They try use spoofing emails, or they tries to circumvent corporate security solutions. They create specific websites, or they even can create specific malware that will try to collect data provided by users through keyboard, etc. We can go to the next slide, I believe. So here we can see some example on how important or how attack against user account, user identity might happen. First of all, as usual, adversaries create some specific malware, some specific websites that looks like corporate sites, or like the partner sites. Main idea in here is to make such site as much similar to commonly used site as possible. Their URLs might be very similar. They might look exactly as a trusted site. However, idea and intention of having such site is only one: to collect your sensitive data, your secrets, and compromise your identity. Then link on such site might be delivered through email, as we discussed it on previous scenario, or it might be delivered through different means, like instant messaging, through private email, etc. Our main idea is to convince user to click on the button on the URL in order to get to spoofed website. Then, if user is not so security aware, or if they just forget some basic security rules and recommendations, they might see that some common user account request happening. They might provide their credentials to malformed web form, and in such situation, victim will get access to user account, and as a result, lots of sensitive information, lots of critical access might be obtained by such adversary. Not only high privileged accounts are subject of such attacks, because if it is possible to get access just to some unprivileged user. However, it might be still important because such user might contain some important corporate information that is valuable as well. And another important thing is that if user is not much privileged, adversary or attacker might attempt to escalate privileges from such user, or user could be used just as intermediate point in multi-stage attack where communications to colleagues could be initiated from such user account. On the next slide, we can see some recommendations about how such type of attacks could be detected and handled. The important approach in here is to collect information. So lots of systems generate logs. They generate some insights about where user collected from, what time it was happening, what was the source of such connection, what was the destination. So first of all, you should collect all such information, and you should be capable to process this
Sorry, I think we had some problems a little bit with the sound. Let us check, please, and we'll get back.
Sorry, colleagues, I'm back. I'm sorry for interruption on my end. Hope you can hear me now. First of all, you should collect information. Then very important aspect is automation, because user access control is such sensitive, and time is very important in protection from such type of attacks. It's very recommended to implement automation techniques in here. Why it's important? Because attacker might require quite small period of time before user account was compromised, and till their credentials was changed, so user doesn't have access to their account anymore. That's why having automation allow to prevent even attempts to access such compromised accounts. So if systems see that access from unusual location happening, or simultaneous access from different geographically distributed points happening, that might be suspicious, and that's why relevant reaction might happen on that. Another important point here is to analyze signals that are collected from systems. So logs should be analyzed. Lots of solutions allow to correlate logs from different systems together, and try to trace back user activity and analyze if it looks like legit or it looks suspicious. Gathered data could be analyzed through just common correlation rules or analytical rules. Some behavior techniques could be applied in here just to see and detect deviations, and etc. And another important thing is manual review, because not everything could be automated. Not each threat could be detected with common correlation rules or analytical rules. That's why such approach as threat hunting, where real human goes to collected data and tries to analyze it as much as possible, try to generate hypotheses and check them that allow users to or that allow company to detect threats on such stage. We can go further. And solutions that could allow to take control on identity security nowadays, solutions that we recommend from our side is Azure Active Directory Identity Protection, which contains lots of analytical features, lots of immediate response features that allow to detect and prevent breaches. And another solution that is recommended here is CyberArk. It's a top-level solution, or it's set of solutions even that allow to take control on your privileged users in the way that users even doesn't know their credentials. They use one-time generated links to connect high privileged systems, and that allow to protect end systems with very high level of security, which is not achievable if such systems are not available. We can go further. So in here you can see some dashboard. It's a dashboard from Azure Active Directory, and a part of some techniques that prevent threats. You can see lots of insights that might be generated through this dashboard, like you can see alerts about suspicious actions of users or their suspicious behavior. You can see risk scores for each user that is calculated automatically, and it's updated considering lots of metrics, lots of insights from systems. Cyanide reports that might allow you to easily validate if lots of access attempts are legit or some of them not. So you can easily get everything from that, and that's very easy to use. It's very lots of functions, security functions within such tool. So that's why it's recommended itself, and it's recommended as part of a global solution which can protect your overall environment. Kostya, I believe you can tell about some example.
Thank you, Dmitry. Yes, I will tell a few words about one of our reference projects. The problem was client had a few security problems. Among them is credential stealing. A lot of users faced with their credential stealing and accessing to their internal IT environment using those credentials. Also, they had some problems not touching directly the security, but touching the IT landscape. And we decided that we can help to solve those problems. So one of major problems, let's say, was that a user had a lot of IT resources that were accessible only from the internal network. So users had to bring up VPN connection to access internal Jira or service desk or and so on and so on. But VPN licenses were very expensive, and clients' VPN gateway couldn't handle such amount of connections because there were a lot of employees in that company. So we created a solution Of course, it was focused to eliminate the security risks and threats that company were facing. Among them were unauthorized credential usage, then eliminate the risks that were spreading through emails, to eliminate the links, attachments, and so on that were spreading through email. Of course, add advanced visibility and monitoring of all such information, and help SOC identify these threats much quicker. The solution was using Microsoft E5 licenses and all those products that are part of this license. So we created a solution with a few key steps that I want to tell you about. The first one is Defender for Office. It protected email very well. We simulated a lot of attacks, and I think all of them were eliminated and stopped. So we couldn't reach clients with malware and malicious links, even when we specially crafted them. So Microsoft has a very good threat intelligence at the moment. Then we created a POC with endpoint protection. So we used Defender for Endpoints to eliminate the risk of advanced threats. Of course, we simulated the attacks to endpoints, and they all were eliminated by Defender for Endpoint. Also, we created a remote access for internal application through application proxy, and it showed that client doesn't need a lot of VPN licenses, and all their internal applications can be securely shared to public internet, and it is protected with a built-in functionality, and user can't access those applications even authorization page while not passing through authentication with the AAD accounts. So attackers even can't scan those applications before they can't gain access to identity, user's identity. But in combination with MFA, those sites were protected very well. So as a result, client got very well-designed architecture, protection architecture. They are solved a lot of security issues and also connectivity issues to their internal environment. Moving on and reaching to pen tests. As I mentioned earlier, your application also have to be well protected, even if it is hidden behind cloud DDoS protection solution, WAF protection solutions, and so on and so on. How to ensure that your application is well protected? Of course, you have to test your application, and tests are made with a penetration testing process. A few words about penetration testing. It includes different types, like infrastructure targeted pen tests. The main targets are networks, server themselves, and cloud environments. Second type of pen tests that we offer are application-specific pen tests. They can target web applications, mobile applications, API that are in the background of those applications. And we also can offer a secure code review, and not mentioned here, but also available, so-called thick clients or desktop applications. Among more advanced attacks that we offer are attacks, employee-based or targeted attacks. It is a simulation of phishing attacks, attacks through social media, and so on and so on. The key point here is we are trying to reach a person himself steal information or identity credentials or his access or laptop and so on. So the key target here is employee himself. And the fourth part of our pentesting offering is pentest of embedded device. So we have experience on pentesting embedded devices, IoT devices, and different SCADA devices. So those devices that are not widespread and typically used in environment. Sometimes we can even try to read unique documentation for unique device that was custom built by client and try to identify those risks that this device has, or even vulnerabilities. Moving on, and typical pen tests or typical pen test requests that we have are among these. The most common is website penetration testing because they are always public facing and they are most widely used in clients' infrastructure, and the most of functionality is on those sites, gathered on those sites. The second most common request is testing of corporate network perimeter when we try to breach to corporate environment through the internet, like real attackers will do. The third one is about PCI DSS certification. When we conduct all the activities that are necessary to pass PCI DSS and obtain the certificate. Of course, we offer and do mobile application pen tests. We had a few very interesting projects when we made a pen test for our client who had a conjunction of services. They were mobile applications, websites, and so on, so on. So I will give a few words about this project, I think right now. So we had a client that asked us to verify how secure his IT environment for his banking services. They gave a lot of services through mobile application, and they had two versions of those applications, and through typical web mobile banking. During this project, we conducted a lot of activities that were targeting to identify as vulnerabilities in web services themselves, in technologies that client used, and also we wanted to identify business logic problems. And as a result, the most impactful and significant vulnerabilities were among the business logic itself. So we identified the ways how to block clients of this bank, how to identify their mobile numbers, and prevent accessing by those clients to their accounts. As a result of this project, we gave recommendations for client, not only how to close these vulnerabilities, including source code modifications, but we also prepared a series of rules that have to be implemented on WAF solution, because these banking applications were protected by WAF. So when client implemented those rules, his service was protected. Why we made this in such a way? Because modification of application to prevent those activities took from weeks to months, and creating new rules on WAF took us a few hours. So as a result, we identified a few critical vulnerabilities in client's environment. We made recommendations on how to close those vulnerabilities. And of course, at the end, we verified that no one can exploit those vulnerabilities and that they are closed in proper way. That's all about pen tests. Dmitry, back to you.
Thank you, Kostya. Another important topic that we are going to talk is Managed Security Operational Center. So Managed Security Operational Center is mostly and main idea of such service is to provide security monitoring for customers intended to detect incidents, to detect suspicious activities or attempts to breach company environment, analyze such attempts and response on them. Companies providing such service, they are using specific tools. They should have experienced staff in place, which is regularly educated and that have to be on cutting edge of modern threats, modern vulnerabilities, how to detect them, how to detect related activities, how to respond them. Which are benefits of exactly managed SOC? Managed SOC usually is much cost efficient than having a SOC team in place. Why? Because SOC service is a service where analysts should keep an eye on everything happening within organization without interruptions, because as much in details you track everything suspicious, the less chance that you will miss something important and you will spend time or adversary will have less time to evolve their success. Maturity level of security, it's one benefit that service provider could bring with them, because SOC service providers they have mature internal processes and procedures, and after they come to you, after they start service provisioning, usually you should connect or build some interactions between your existing IT team, between your existing security team and team who provides you the service. That's why it allows to improve your existing security processes and procedures. Concentrating on things that are not related to security monitoring allows you to improve your internal IT processes. It allows to rebuild them just in order to concentrate on more specific things for you, and doesn't take care about such things as data collection, threat detection, threat analysis, and such things. Proactive threat detection is another important aspect. It's related to lots of specific tools, specific resources that are usually in use of professional SOC team. Having such subscriptions or such tools in place, usually it's quite expensive. That's why a company which is concentrated on this service and provided it under shared model they can utilize such services and make it cost effective. However, having such services just for internal use, it's not always cost effective, and maybe having such professional tools is not even needed for most companies. Data compliance is that which is quite easy achievable with SOC team, because lots of regulations has requirement about data collection, about data monitoring, incident detection. That's why if you need to meet compliance requirements, it's quite easy to achieve with help of SOC team or managed SOC team itself. Also, it's about infrastructure visibility, because each SOC team, as soon as they come, they try to make audit and identify all your assets, audit what you currently have, because only having such information allows to make comprehensive monitoring to cover every potential vectors of breach your organization, and etc. I see that we run out of time. I have only a couple slides ahead, so we can go further. Kostya. In here, I would like to tell about one of success story of us. It's a global customer which has headquarters in Switzerland. However, they have offices around the world. They worked as a manufacturer for some specific equipment for production lines, etc. When customer came to us, they didn't have SOC at all. They have had distributed infrastructure. They didn't have any visibility about their security, or such visibility was quite pure. What we did for such customers, first of all, we identified their assets, or most critical assets at least, because their environment is really huge. We implemented CM and SOAR solution that became a core component of SOC service, SOC monitoring team, and we integrated lots of their systems, including some security solutions into that SIM system. A couple of custom use cases were developed to cover customer-specific needs. And to concentrate on what customer really needs, and what could make a potential impact on their operations. We initiated and perform incident detection and response procedures, and for sure it's all about security notifications, reporting about customer, which happens regarding to escalation matrix that were agreed with customers. So what's benefits of such service for the customer? Customer received 24/7 monitoring, a couple of significant incidents, or I would like to say that it was campaigns against such customer were detected and prevented. Customer got lots of recommendations how to improve their internal security level, to implement a couple of systems that are directly related to security, and improve their overall security posture. So we keep providing the service. Customer environment keep evolving, keep changing. However, we keep an eye on what's happening inside of their company, inside of their systems, and we provide them with insights, which with important information about what's going on, what's hidden from their administrators, and how to handle all such things. And on the next slide, we intended to review common roadmap, how to get to better security posture. I should admit that this roadmap that you can see on the slide, it's intended for situation when you try to implement everything in planned way. So if you have time to get prepared, to arrange everything and to move step by step, this plan is very good. So first you need to perform maybe some external penetration testing against your external facing resources. Then you will receive information about which resources are could be accessible from outside, which of them are vulnerable. Then you can go to next phase to detect proper security controls, to get them designed, to get them implemented, to perform security hardening, and implement all those systems that are important to have before stepping into SOC service, because SOC service is effective when it's happening in the right place in the right time. If your company doesn't have most of solutions listed in here, you might definitely have SOC service. However, it might work not such efficient as it could be, and it might give you not so many benefits as it possible to get from SOC service. However, in case of emergency, in case of war that's happening right now, it is this roadmap could be changed, so you should immediately respond on threats that happening and incidents that happening within your company. That's why some systems could be implemented first. So if you struggle against attacks on your web service, for sure you will try to harden them. For sure you will try to put web application firewall in place before doing any else. Or if you struggle from DDoS attack, you will not mind, you will not start to initiating pen test or etc. You will have to get rid of such attack, block it as fast and as efficient as possible. That's why most probably you will reach out to some providers that could protect you against DDoS or provide specific solutions. That's why I would ask you to see this schema, this roadmap as a reference model. However, it could change it could be changed in the real world in situation of real attacks. I believe that's all that we intended to discuss today.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. It really was interesting speech today, and according of the amount of questions I've got, I understand that people are really interested in this topic. But unfortunately, we have a lack of time, and I have chosen only the one question, which is, on my point of view, is the most interesting. But I promise our audience that we will send you the answers on your questions by emails as soon as possible. So the question is, how will the cyber war develop in the next half a year? What are your expectations? So, who wants to answer?
I can start, and I believe Kostya will support me if anything. So what we see, lots of activities that happening on government level nowadays. They might lead to targeted attacks against separate companies or against even countries. That's why good approach in here to be that countries become securing their environment, their networks on very high level. Because they have lots of authorities, they can provide lots of recommendations or even mandatory requirements how everything should be built. However, for sure, not every country will do that. That's said, and for sure, that is quite time-consuming approach. After governments will decide or will pay attention on these problems, after government will decide that something have to be done, then they will analyze, they will go to professionals and try to build some concepts that should be relevant to most companies. That's why it couldn't happen fast. That's why my vision is that until war is happening, and maybe even after that, the situation will not become much better. And if today company doesn't feel any effect of cyber war, that doesn't really mean that the situation will remain like that for a long time further. That's why paying attention on your security, on how to become as much protected as possible is important in here, and having some roadmap for you relevant for your company, considering where you are, considering your risks. That's what very recommended, and that's good to have approach like that.
Thank you. I think I will add a few words. I'll answer shortly. Countries, people, everyone start using different solutions more and more. Countries transferring their IT services to IT landscape, to cloud, and so on. So day to day, there become more and more services, and they of course can be targeted. And nowadays we can see that targeting, breaching, hacking these solutions is like political motivation or political handle to try to influence to someone. So for until we use security, until we use services, any sort of services, until government will use those services and bring them to clients, and until there are conflicts on the planet and in our country, including there will be cyber war, because it started a long time before 2014, and it will remain a long time after physical war will end. So that's why I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for the possibility to come on our webinar today. And I just want to make a little reminder that during this week, you will get the record of this webinar, and also you will get the presentation materials which you have seen today. Thank you very much and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.